What if I told you Marcus Rashford might be the most overrated player in Premier League history? Back in 2021, my dad and I kept watching Manchester United, and we couldn't believe our eyes. Every time Rashford got the ball, we'd start a 3-second countdown. 3. And just like that, he'd already lost possession. 9 times out of 10, he ran into defenders, misplaced a pass, or shot into the stands. And yet, people kept comparing him to Mbappe. At first, I thought we were just being harsh. Maybe we were exaggerating. Maybe it was just a bad season. But then I checked the stats. One of the worst dribblers in the league. Worst take-on success rate than 90% of wingers. Even Antony, yes Antony, was outplaying him. And the craziest part? This season Rashford got even worse. So how did a player with elite academy training, record-breaking hype, and early superstardom end up like this? There's a dark truth behind Rashford's rise. A truth that explains why fans still believe in him, despite the undeniable stats. But first, how did Rashford go from a random 11-year-old to one of the most hyped English prospects of all time? The answer might shock you. Marcus Rashford's rise wasn't just fast, it was unprecedented. Inside Manchester United's academy, there's an elite program reserved for only the most exceptional talents. It's so exclusive that players under 14 almost never get in. In fact, signing anyone under 12 was completely against the rules. But those rules? They were broken once. For 11-year-old Marcus Rashford. Before he even hit puberty, he was playing against future stars like Paul Pogba, Ravel Morrison, and Jesse Lingard, players 4 to 5 years older than him. But here's where things get interesting. First, open loop. Rashford wasn't just another academy prospect. He was put on the fast track to superstardom. Within 6 years, he was training with the first team. Second, open loop. He made his first team debut by accident. A last-minute injury forced Louis van Gaal to take a massive gamble. That gamble changed football history. Third, open loop. Within 5 months, Rashford went from an unknown teenager to breaking Wayne Rooney's records, winning trophies and earning comparisons to Cristiano Ronaldo. But was it real talent, or just the perfect storm? Because what happened next revealed the truth. But first, let's go back to the night Rashford made his debut. The night that turned him into a superstar, and set him up for one of football's biggest illusions. February 25, 2016. Manchester United was out of options. 13 injuries. Martial collapses in warm-ups. Van Gaal takes a gamble. He throws an 18-year-old Marcus Rashford. A kid who wasn't even supposed to play. 60 minutes in, United are struggling. Then Rashford scores. Youngest player to score for United in Europe. Breaks George Best's record. 11 minutes later he does it again. 3 days later he destroys Arsenal. 2 goals, 1 assist, a 3-2 win. The hype is now unstoppable. England calls him up. First shot? A goal in 138 seconds. Fastest debut goal in England's history. In just 5 months, Rashford went from nobody to national hero. But was it real talent, or just the perfect storm? Because after the hype, the truth started to show. But first, how did Rashford go from breaking records to becoming one of the most inconsistent players ever? Rashford's career took off faster than anyone expected. In just 5 months he was breaking records, winning trophies, getting compared to Ronaldo. But here's what no one saw coming: his game never evolved. His dribbling was never elite. His decision-making was questionable. His consistency? Non-existent. Yet, because he had exploded onto the scene so fast, no one stopped to ask, was Rashford really that good, or just in the right place at the right time? And when the goals dried up, the excuses started. The managers weren't using him correctly. He needed a better system. He was still young. But the truth? Rashford was slowly being exposed. But first, how did one injury change everything and reveal the real Marcus Rashford? At his peak, Rashford was unstoppable. 20 goal contributions in 20 games. Ending Liverpool's winning streak. Looking like United's next superstar. Then disaster. A back fracture sidelined him for 5 months. But timing was on his side. Football shut down due to the pandemic, giving him time to recover. When the season resumed, Rashford came back. Not just as a footballer, but as a national hero for his charity work. But on the pitch, something had changed. His explosiveness wasn't the same. His confidence looked shaken. And over the next few seasons, his inconsistency became impossible to ignore. But first, how did Rashford go from England's golden boy to one of the most criticized players in the league? After his injury, Rashford was still putting up decent numbers. A hat-trick against Leipzig. A game-winning goal against PSG. United top of the league by January. But then, the decline started. Slowly his form dropped off. His decision-making became erratic. His performances became hit or miss. By the end of the season, only 6 goal contributions in his last 18 games. United finished trophyless. Fans started questioning if he'd ever be world-class. But the worst was yet to come. Because after a disappointing Euros, Rashford was about to face the biggest backlash of his career. But first, how did one missed penalty turn him from a fan favorite into a target for brutal criticism? In 2021, Rashford had the world at his feet. Then came the Euro final. 1 minute left in extra time. He steps up for a penalty, and misses. The backlash was brutal. Vandalized mural. Social media abuse. Confidence shattered. From that moment his game collapsed. 2 goals in an entire year. Dropped from England's squad. Looked completely lost. But then, a comeback. Under Ten Hag, Rashford hit 30 goals in a season. He was back. Or was he? Because the very next season he fell apart again. 3 goals in 6 months. Off-field distractions. Benched by multiple managers. So, was Rashford ever world-class? Or was it all just flashes of brilliance? At 27, time is running out. If he doesn't fix his inconsistency, his legacy might be one of football's biggest what-ifs. What do you think? Overrated or mismanaged? Let me know in the comments.